Hello, my name is Dr. Martin Panter. This is now number 3 of a short series of evolution and faith. Is there anything that Christians can learn from scientists and vice versa, scientists from Christians, with regard to this thorny problem, or is it in fact a true oxymoron? If you wish to contact me or ask any questions, I'm very happy to answer you the best I can. My email is martin, M-A-R-T-I-N, @panter, P-A-N-T-E-R.com. The sequence of creation, as listed in Genesis chapters 1 and 2, is entirely compatible and consistent with evolutionary theory. Evolution states that life started as simple-celled organisms. It progressed through sponges, corals, ferns, mosses and liverworts, to starfish and sea urchins, worms of various kinds, mollusks, crustaceans, insects, then fish and amphibians, finally reptiles, birds, land animals, mammals, primates, and finally Homo sapiens. The Genesis story states that at first there was darkness over all the earth, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And he formed dry land and separated it from the oceans of the world. The dry land was spoken to bring forth grass, herbs, and fruit trees. He then spoke to the waters for them to bring forth moving creatures abundantly, as distinct from sessile creatures such as sponges and corals. God spoke once more, and the birds and fowl flew above the earth. Next he spoke to the earth to bring forth living creatures, creeping things, and cattle and beasts of the earth. Finally his creation culminated in his creating man. In Genesis 1 verse 26 we read, "And God said, Let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish and the sea and the fowls of the air, and over the cattle and over all the earth, and over everything creeping upon the earth. And God blessed his creation and spoke to them and said, Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it." Then in verse 31, God saw everything he had made, and behold, it was very good. The realm of the spirit, you see, is not subject to rigorous scientific investigation or analysis, as is the realm of the flesh. They exist in parallel, but entirely distinct and separate compartments or dimensions operate under quite different dynamics. The spiritual dimension is assessed and experienced through the spirit, but sometimes the effects are seen in the flesh, such as in a miraculous healing, but this is the exception and not the rule. Those who deny that the spiritual dimension exists at all are of course skeptical of any experience that those who accept its reality may claim. Thus the whole debate about evolution and faith, at least with evolutionary diehards, appears to be totally unmeritorious and pointless. For the kind of evolution that Dawkins and Harris believe and accept, atheism is its bedrock and is axiomatic to all their scientific investigation. The natural world, both organic and living and inorganic and inanimate, is just too beautifully and elegantly complex and functional for any sane person, I believe, to even suggest that chance is the only dynamic operating for their evolutionary development. It simply does not add up. Doctors Barrow and Tipler, writing a few years ago in the Anthropopic Cosmological Principle, Oxford University Press, state that there has not been sufficient time since the formation of the earth to have the number or extent of genes randomly selected by chance mutation and natural selection to have the remotest chance of the range or extent of biodiversity that we observe on earth today. Dawkins, I believe, knows this, hence his elaborate arguments against there being any possibility of a designer or creator at work, lest it should undermine his deeply and passionately held worldview of atheism and Darwinian determinism. I've spoken with engineers, Christian and non-Christian, and they both tell me the same, that such incredibly delicately engineered structures that we see in the natural world around us, from nano to mega-dimensional, absolutely demand a designer. My medical colleagues tell me the same. I would concur with their conclusions. David says in Psalm 139, "We are beautifully and wonderfully made." Note he does not say perfectly made, as no discussion on the development or ascent of man within a Christian context can occur without reference to the fall of man. As previously stated in, I think, video numbers 1 and 2, profound changes occurred both in the natural and spiritual dimension following the fall of man. When God banished Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden after they had disobeyed him, he said first to Eve, "I will greatly increase your pain in childbearing. With pain will you give birth to children, and your desire will be toward your husband, and he will rule over you." To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat. Cursed is the ground for your sake, and through painful toil will you eat of it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles, and you will eat of the plants of the field by the sweat of your brow, until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, for dust you are, and unto dust you shall return. Weeds now grow where once only flowers. Flowering shrubs and fruit trees flourished without any competition. Man had to work to clear the weeds and sow the crops to provide for his daily bread. His life was consist of physical hard labour rather than prolonged and intimate fellowship with his Creator, enjoying the fruits of God's husbandry. Childbirth would be more painful, presumably due to a change or alteration in pelvic anatomy. If the Word of God can produce light from darkness, and with seemingly little creative effect, God could make all the abundance of the heavenly bodies, it is hardly surprising that profound changes should occur upon the earth and also upon mankind, as man is held responsible for his choices in disobeying God's spoken word. Creation can never be proven. Evolution may and probably will be both proven and demonstrable, but even that will show only its mechanism. It will contribute nothing to the discussion of an overall plan or purpose. The unravelling of evolutionary theory is no different fundamentally to the understanding of the workings of the internal combustion engine, together with every nut and bolt that goes into their making, or the understanding of a watch mechanism down to every fine spring or crystal. But that explains nothing about either the watchmaker or the mechanic, apart from the great skill and creative drive in developing such a fine piece of machinery. So it is with evolution. Richard Dawkins' skill lies in suggesting a mechanism for unravelling the process. Since he believes passionately that there is neither plan nor purpose in it, he should, I believe, allow others with understanding and expertise in theology and philosophy to comment in their fields with precisely the same authority that he claims for himself. Thank you very much. I look forward to your comments.